standstill because there were 3.5 lakh cars on the outer ring road and the government was not able to provide basic infrastructure. It's road that people were asking for, not some fancy out-of-this-world object. Today, the whole city, the whole state, in fact, was shut down because of politics and because of political reasons. The state, as a result, has lost over 4,000 crores. But who is to be held accountable for this?
कल से हम यहाँ से बैठे हुए अभी तक तो मिला नहीं, बस कल रात को यहीं पर बैठे हुए थे हम, इधर ही रह रहे थे तो ऐसे चल रहा था.
All right, now you remember a couple of nights ago, the pictures that you're seeing on the far right of your screen, that was what Bengaluru city was looking like. It was a massive jam. People were taking 4 or 5 hours just to traverse less than a kilometer. This is the outer ring road and it's infamous, folks. This has been the case with the outer ring road for the last 20 years. This is the same part of town which got badly hit in the floods last year, and now this was the situation this time. And all people were asking for is basic roads. Today the scene was something else. The entire city, the entire state was shut down for politicians and for a political reason. I'm not going to the merits of whether Karnataka can or should release water to Tamil Nadu. What I'm curious to know about, and this is what every Bangalorean resident, every resident of Karnataka wants to know, if on the left, governments cannot provide basic facilities like roads to take care of traffic, then what right do they have? What right do the same politicians have to shut down an entire city, to shut down an entire state, howsoever justified their reason might be? All right, let me now bring you up to speed with what was open today and what was not, because the Aam Aadmi was the one who suffered the most. Shops, malls, hotels, restaurants, theatres, all of this was unavailable. Whereas public transport was available in limited form, auto services, taxis, Ola, Ubers, etc. 44 flights were cancelled from the Bengaluru airport. Malls, shops, restaurants, hotels, all of this was completely shut. In limited capacity, we had taxi, Ola and Uber services, as well as auto services in very, very limited and sparing capacity. And of course, like I said, more than 36 flights cancelled at the Bengaluru airport. Now, the other question, and this is again worth pondering, is what is the impact of this on Karnataka's economy? In fact, you had a senior minister, Mr. Parameshwara, come out and say that the 2-day ban has cost the state approximately 4,000 crores. A 1-day closure by traders results in 100 crores loss. That's just in GST alone. Hotel Association says their estimate of loss is to the tune of 100 crore rupees in excise duty. Loss in the form of taxes amounting to 400 to 500 crore rupees. In fact, many of these associations say it will take up to a month for them to recover these losses because of the ban. I want to first go across to a special guest who's joining us. He's the Member of Parliament from South Bangalore. Tejasvi Surya is now joining us. Thank you very much, Tejasvi Surya, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. You're also the National President of the BJP Yuva Morcha and MP from South Bengaluru. The state government says that they are battling it out legally with the Supreme Court appointed Cauvery Water Authority, and that while they are pleading the case of Karnataka in the Supreme Court, no political party would have been able to do anything different. Basically, what would you have done had you been in government, and that you're playing politics with the people of Karnataka? How would you respond to that?
Well, without getting into the politics of it, I want to place before you Karnataka's case, which is extremely distressing as regards the availability of Cauvery water today. The situation on ground is grim because the state has received about 60% deficit rainfall this year, which is the steepest decline in almost 5 to 6 decades. The Cauvery basin has about 34 taluks, out of which 32 taluks are declared severely drought hit. The city of Bengaluru and many districts in Karnataka are dependent even on drinking water needs on the Cauvery. Our total water requirement to the end of the water year, that is next year July, is about 106 TMC of water, whereas we have only about 50 TMC of water left in our reservoirs and the levels are rapidly declining. The state of Karnataka primarily receives water rainfall through the southwest monsoons, which have failed and are already exhausted. There is no more possibility of additional rains. Whereas the state of Tamil Nadu receives rainfall from both southwest monsoons as well as, most importantly, the northeast monsoons, which are yet to land hopefully from the end of October. This is the position on ground. Okay. And whichever way you look at it, it is a perilous situation. If the state complies with the orders in the and CWMA keeps giving these kind of unreasonable orders, the state may even have to face a challenge for drinking water in the coming months. This is the reality. This is the grim situation on the ground.
Okay, Tejasvi, but look at the situation on the ground, as you say. Mr. Parameshwara, one of the senior ministers in the government, says that the loss to the state exchequer would be to the tune of 4,000 crores. For the city of Bengaluru itself, it's expected to be over 1,000 crores. Now, how does one justify a bandh of this nature? Whatever your cause may be, however justifiable the cause may be, how can you shut down an entire state and an entire city like Bengaluru?
Now, Zaka, I agree with you that, yes, I agree with you that, the approach of a bandh may not be the very best method to express our outrage. There are other methods to express our outrage. But having said that, the situation is desperate and desperate measures call for desperate action. And this is one such situation where the state is constrained somehow to draw the attention of the Cauvery Water Management Authority, which is an expert body which is constituted under the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, the last so many months, one order after another is being passed in the detriment to the state's interest. These authorities are taking measures, orders, passing orders, sitting in AC rooms, video conferencing, without due regard to the ground reality. I also urge the water management authorities to send an expert body on a field visit to ascertain the situation on ground and then pass orders.
Okay.
So, though I am not in support of the bandh as the best method to present our outrage, the state at this point in time is constrained to do this.
Now, but tell me, 2 days ago, we had these images of people, Bengalurians, stuck on the roads, more than 3 lakh cars just on the outer ring road. People took 4 or 5 hours just to traverse a few kilometers. And the people are saying, when the state can't provide basic infrastructure, all they're asking for is decent roads, how can the same state and political parties who represent that state justify shutting down that state for a bandh?
Well, I wouldn't want to club both of these issues, though they are linked economically. Providing drinking water for Bengaluru and all the lakhs of people that you mentioned is also of utmost priority for us. The cars can run on petrol, but the people and the 1 crore citizens of Bengaluru to survive need Cauvery water. And the issue today is very, very serious, Zaka. As we speak, the levels in our reservoirs are depleting. The state's monsoon has completely failed. Our farmers are unable to get basic water to even keep the standing crops alive. There is no water available to support the flora and fauna and the animals, domestic animals at homes and in the farms. This is the situation in the state. Therefore, This is a desperate measure, like I told. This is not something that, the state wants to, or we are enjoying doing this, or there is, some kind of a consensus about this. But the authorities involved must also approach this issue from a very sensitive manner, a sincere manner, and try to chalk out a long-term solution.
Okay,
that
we'll
is something
leave it
that
at that. Tejasvi Surya, Member of Parliament from South Bengaluru and President of the Bharatiya Janata Party Yuva Morcha. Thank you for joining us. Let me now open this up not just to our panelists, we'll go to them in 1 second, but I also want to bring our viewers up to speed that you can call us. Our numbers are flashing on the screen. The Bandh paralyzing Karnataka and the city of Bengaluru. But why should the Aam Aadmi suffer? 0120-640-3751 is our number. You can call in, especially if you're from Bengaluru, and tell us how you have encountered over the last 2 or 3 days. First, that massive traffic jam, and today the entire state being shut down. Madhu N. Rao is spokesperson of the BJP. Sumansi Raman, political analyst, joining us. Brijesh Kallappa is senior advocate with the Supreme Court. He had in fact responded for the Karnataka government in the Cauvery matter. Tara Krishnaswamy is a civic rights activist. Brijesh, let me start with you first. You wear both a lawyer's hat and also a politician's hat. But for one, let's start wearing a citizen's hat. And the citizens of Bengaluru are asking a very basic, fundamental question. State can't provide decent roads so that people don't have to be stuck in traffic for 4 or 5 hours on a normal work day. And then the same state, and I'm not saying, one political party is responsible or another political party is responsible, cutting across the political spectrum, the state comes together, political parties come together to shut down that same state. I mean, again, who suffers? It is the Aam Aadmi who suffers. It's the ordinary citizen, the ordinary residents of Bengaluru who suffer. I mean, this is double standards at best.
Zaka, well, I agree with you that there is a huge problem, and particularly daily wages are the worst hit when there is, this kind of a Bandh situation, not a Bandh situation once in a blue moon, but repeatedly. I agree that, it's the daily wages who are hit. It's people who have to eke out their income on a daily basis and who have to earn their living for the day. They are the worst hit, and I agree with you. But you must also remember that the Cauvery dispute is a highly emotive issue as far as Karnataka is concerned. And not just today or yesterday. This has been a emotive issue. You must remember that in 1991, there were large-scale riots owing to the Cauvery dispute and so on and so forth. But, I am very happy that, largely law and order has been maintained. And of course, this is a problem which we'll have to encounter. But I hope that in days to come, the intensity of these kind of protests will come down. And thanks to the fact that, what has happened in 1991 has not recurred. And we hope that it doesn't happen again. And we hope that in times to come, the people are able to accept orders of either the CWMA or the Supreme Court with the equanimity that it deserves to be.
On that one point, I agree with you. There was a time, you're right, in the 1990s when, a Bandh would have seen a lot of violence. Touch wood, and this is, I think, maturing of the polity, maturing of the electorate, and of course, far less propensity for violence now. So one good thing was we didn't see any bus burning and any public transport being affected, being hurled with stones and so on and that kind of thing. Especially, public transport of neighboring states that come in, they used to be the first ones that get targeted. None of that has happened. But Madhu N. Rao, I want to speak today on behalf of ordinary Bengalurians who are asking again a very simple question. If we can flash those two visuals, I think it's a very contrasting picture. People were stuck on the outer ring road in places like Bellandur, Marthahalli for 4-5 hours just to traverse, a kilometer or a few kilometers. Again, they're not asking for the heavens. They're not asking for some, magic. All they're asking for is basic road. And this part of town is infamous. Last year it got flooded out. This year it's got trafficked out. And then today you have political parties coming together to shut down a state. Again, who suffers the most? The Aam Aadmi suffers the most. 4,000 crores is what the state has lost. So when it's politically convenient, all of you all close ranks. But the job that you're elected to do, that you cannot do, as was evidenced in the massive traffic jam that we saw a couple of days ago.
Zakar, good evening. I think I heard Brijesh, my senior friend, and also my brother Tejasvi Surya. The point of view is this. Now let us understand. You're talking about the 4-hour, 5-hour traffic jam. I truly agree with it. I know that I've been in Bangalore since my birth. The whole corridor itself is a tech corridor. I can understand the amount of traffic jam and the the vehicle propensity, what happens there. Now, having said so, I mean, today's, let us agree, there is an official statement, perhaps it is given by the police commissioner, who say that, since there is a 5-day long leave, the people are going, so therefore it has been such a rush. I do not know. I think the police commissioner needs to add to this and also clarify about this. But having said so, yes, there has been apathy with regard to roads right from the time immemorial when the Congress party is there. I'm sorry to say this. I do not want to make it politicize it. Rather, I want to be I want to talk it as a citizen. But think over this. Now you're telling about the Bandh. Zaka, I want to ask you one thing. It's not about, as my senior friend told Mr. Brajesh Kalapa, it's an emotive issue. It is a life and death issue. We don't have water. And the government is in deep slumber. For what reason, we are not able to know. I mean, perhaps this Bandh would have not been called if the government would have to act properly in a sane manner before they left the water. What was the necessity for them to be quiet?
Madhu, once again, the Cauvery Water Management Authority is a Supreme Court appointed quasi-judicial body. It was by order of the CWMA that the state government released the water.
I agree.
Now, what do you want them to do? Disobey the Supreme Court?
Zaka, just give me 1 minute, Zaka. Look at the crucial thing which the government does not add. I think I would be happy if I am corrected by Mr. Brajesh Kalapa, since he has handled the issue more in the court. I mean, why can't the government go before the Supreme Court the 10th or 11th of August and say, my lords, kindly, this is a distress year. All the 6 years we have left more than 30 to 40% of more excess water we have left. We don't have water for drinking. And of all the Tamil Nadu is asking for about, for the Kuruvai crop, we don't have water. What was the necessity for the government not to put this on record? That is what we are telling. Perhaps, had it been told, this Bandh would have not called.
Okay, so let me go across to ordinary Bangaloreans before I go to Sumant and to Tara Krishnaswamy in just 1 second. I've got a couple of callers. Raghu is calling us from Bangalore. Yes, good evening, Raghu. Go ahead.
Good evening. Hi.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah.
Okay, my point of view is, with the question of why Aam Aadmi has to suffer, it's more to do with Aam Aadmi is the one who is going to utilize the Cauvery water over here. Throughout the Bangalore, Cauvery water supplies water to the entire Bangalore city, at least to 80% of the city. So we will have to, this small suffering is for a larger cause. And that should be not taken in a wrong way.
All right. So thank you for your call. Sridhar is also calling us from Bengaluru. Yes, Sridhar.
Yeah, Zaka. See, I'm one of the victims who was stuck. I don't think this is a regular scene, Zaka.
Okay, Sridhar, thank you for that.
I don't think this is a regular scene, Zaka.
Okay, Sridhar, thank you for that. Babu Narayan is calling us again from Bengaluru. Babu Narayan.
Good evening, Zaka.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah, actually, this is completely unprecedented because last 2 days in this week we had this Bangalore Bandh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is not at all acceptable for a city like Bangalore, to go and strike for two days in a week.
Yeah.
So something has to be done for this, whether it's Cauvery or anything else.
All right, Babu Narayan, thank you for your call. Mr. Shrikant is also calling us from Bengaluru. Yeah, Shrikant.
Yeah, hello, Zaka.
Yeah. Go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, yeah. This Bandh has paralyzed the city for 2 days, and this is not done. And whatever government comes, the successive governments, they have not taken any action to ease the traffic first, and garbage what we are generating here.
Yeah.
Totally the civic communities are not at all looked after by any of the government who have been ruling this state for almost 2 decades.
All right, Shrikant, thank you for your call. Let me now go to Sumant and to Tara. Sumant, what is striking is that it's not once this week, it's twice this week. And like I said, I'm not getting into the merits or demerits of the Cauvery water issue and whether Karnataka should be given an exception this year because it's a drought year, likely. I am on the point of how can you shut down a state, shut down a city like Bengaluru twice in 1 week? And I believe there are multiple High Court and Supreme Court orders talking about how hartal is illegal. You are barred by these various judgments from calling any kind of hartal or shutdown or band. And yet this happens.
First of all, it is tragic to see the politics that is being played out. Let me make one fact very clear, and I hope all the people of Karnataka are watching this particular statistic. Tamil Nadu between June and September is supposed to, as per the Supreme Court order, get 124, approximately 124 TMC feet. This year, Tamil Nadu has received 42 TMC feet. That is approximately 1/3 of what Tamil Nadu should get. Karnataka's reservoirs as on 29th September 2023 have got a storage of, Cauvery Basin reservoirs alone have a storage of 58 TMC feet. Don't believe me? Look it up. 58 TMC feet. So all that Tamil Nadu is saying is, you have a 50% deficit, you have not given us 66%. That is the difference. You are not, the whole point is nobody, Tamil, and that is what the Cauvery Water Management Authority has said. The Cauvery Water Management Authority has said, there is distress in Karnataka. We understand that the rains are not normal. We understand that the storage of the reservoirs is 50%. But if the distress is 50%, it should be shared in equal proportion. Tamil Nadu has received 1/3 of what it should receive between June and September. Let's be very clear. 177 TMC feet should come for the entire year, out of which the bulk of it comes each year in these 3 months, in these 4 months, June to September. And that is because they are the peak months of the southwest monsoon when it rains in Karnataka.
Okay, I think both, one second, let's thrash this out. Both Brijesh and Madhu are nodding very, very furiously. So Brijesh first and then I'll go to Madhu after that. Yeah. Tara, just give me 1 second, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jaka, it's like this, that Tamil Nadu, as you know, receives some portion of the rain from the southwest monsoon, but 237 TMC from the northeast monsoon. And that 237 TMC is an assured amount, right? Which will flow under any circumstances, because there could be some variation in terms of the southwest. But in so far as the east is concerned, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to get into this.
Where did you get this data from?
One minute, Mr. Sumant Raman. I didn't make a single comment regarding the merits of the matter. You're the one who spoke about the merits of the matter. Unfortunately for you, have represented the state before both the tribunal and the Supreme Court. So these are some inescapable facts, some facts which nobody can deny. And these are the facts I'm placing before you. So this is the first part. Second part is that even after the decline of the southwest monsoon, Karnataka has nowhere to go. And there are no more flows which come in. This is the situation, right? This being the situation, I think if one wants to make a very argument on merits, I think it's avoidable. The debate is largely regarding how Bangalore is affected, how there should not be a ban. Let us retain that.
Let me break. One second. Yeah, quickly, 10 seconds, Sumant. I need to bring Tara Krishnaswamy also in. She's been waiting very patiently. Yeah, please.
Let me come in for a minute.
Yeah, coming back to you, Madhu, 1 second.
Tamil Nadu share, which Karnataka should give, has gone down from 200 plus to 192 to 177. Now, to say that you will get rain at some other time, and I don't know, this northeast monsoon that Brijesh is promising, it is known over the last few years to have been consistently below par. So to say that you can get rain at some other time, So therefore, we don't have to give you water.
Okay.
Look, all
Anyway, this debate is not so much. This debate is not so much on the merits or demerits of the Cauvery waters and whether it's a drought here and whether Karnataka is justified in not releasing the asked for amount of water. That's not tonight's topic. Let me ask Tara Krishnaswamy this. Tara, 1 second. Sumant, 1 second, please yield. Please yield.
No,
Please yield. Please yield. Sumant, come on, 1 second. Let's have Tara on screen. Tara, the point is that, like I said, I'm not getting into the merits or demerits of Cauvery water, who gets what share. Point is that the residents of a city, one of the highest contributing cities when it comes to direct and indirect taxes in this country, are facing the worst of both worlds. On the one side, I showed you those images from Wednesday night where the entire city came to a standstill because, the road simply couldn't take on the load of 3 lakh plus cars. And again, today the city has come to a standstill, second time in a week, because politicians have all ganged up for whatever cause, right? At the end of the day, both on Wednesday and today, who is suffering the most? It's the tax-paying citizen of the city. And why should they bear the brunt from both of these sides? Tara.
Zaka, it's really unfortunate what happened with the traffic jam, and there were even children stuck, not being able to get back home for hours, and that must have been terrible on the children and the parents. That said, I think there are a few things that we must state to make this very clear. That particular road, the outer ring road, the stretch in which all this happened is exactly where the metro construction is happening. So even on a normal day with a regular amount of traffic, it is much slower than it could be, much slower than it ought to be. And that is because of construction. That's number one. Number two, when we talk about road infrastructure in Bangalore, we need a lot more of it. There is no two ways about that. That said, even if you take the extraordinary road infrastructure in places like the US, especially the West Coast and Los Angeles, the Highway 101 barely gets 1,25,000 cars. Okay, we are talking about 3.5 lakh cars here, almost triple or 2.5 times that. No road can take that. No matter how wide you build the road, it's not going to be able to take this kind of a traffic. So the two things to remember are this. If we want to build a 15-kilometer stretch where 6 to 7 lakh people are working, and all of them have cars and all of them decide to bring cars on a given day, right? It's untenable, right? So this is not a matter of a specific political party or road infrastructure. There is no infrastructure in the world you can build. If you want within a 15-kilometer stretch, 6 lakh, 6.5, 7 lakh people to work, and that's just a count on a given day. As more companies come in, Bangalore being one of the fastest growing cities, or the fastest growing city, the most dynamic city, as more people come in, more cars come in, this is going to continue to be a problem.
No. I think, Tara, may I beg to differ, please? May I beg to differ?
Because the men have had 2 or 3 turns to speak. I want to
sure.
Okay,
go ahead.
Let me just finish this. As an activist who's argued, okay? So number one, I think public transport should be prioritized over private transport, and there is no other way to run large cities. We must first do the suburban train, the metro and the buses, and get people onto mass transit, and that is the way to avoid these kind of extreme situations. That's number one. Number two, there is some hope, okay? This year, the 2 metro lines are opening. Some of the most crowded places in Bangalore connected to this very road, Whitefield, KR Puram, and Electronic City. Metro lines are opening this year for those. So that is one piece of good news. Second is for the first time.
I generally don't tend to disagree with panelists, but I think Tara is letting successive governments get away very lightly, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because who allowed these 6 or 7 lakh people to work from one stretch of road? They had to have building clearances, they had to have all kinds of permits from different departments, from different ministries, all of which was given by successive governments, right, over the last 20 years.
Isn't that
what I'm asking is, if you want to force people to take public transport, then enforce that, right? I don't believe in enforcing anything. I don't believe that, especially decisions like asking public to take people to take public transport after having invited investors and companies and multinationals to come there and invest, and then say, oh, by the way, you have to take public transport, which by the way is non-existent. No, which doesn't exist. Exactly. Now, who is responsible for the metro not getting constructed for the last 10 years in Bengaluru? Are the citizens responsible? Are those IT companies responsible? Are those 6 to 7 lakh people who are working on that outer ring road stretch, are they responsible? Come on. Let's if accountability needs to be fixed, it has to be fixed. And like I said, I'm not wanting to blame one political party or one government. Successively for the last 20 years, they've let down the people. But to say that those companies or those employees are responsible, or this is how it is, no government, no country can do it. I'm sorry. I think that's just letting people get away lightly, people who should be held to account. But let's ask the people of Bengaluru. We've got 4 callers. I want to go to them. Venkatesh is calling us. Venkatesh, yes. Good evening. Go ahead, sir. I'm sure you heard the conversation, the debate amongst our panelists. Go ahead. What are your views? Venkatesh.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening, Saga. I think your panelists are mixing up too many multiple things over here. See, today's debate, I think, should be purely about the merits of the Bandh. Is the Bandh a good way to register your protest against the government? I think the answer is no. It's throwing normal life out of gear.
Yes.
It's inconveniencing the public. What's the point of blocking roads, blocking airports? If you must protest outside, Chief Minister's residence or Vidhan Sabha. What are you trying to prove by inconveniencing the public? That's my major grounds against.
All right. Thank you very much, Venkatesh. And I agree with you 100%. Rajiv is also calling us. Yes, Rajiv, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Zaka. I think we are discussing 2 completely different issues. While the traffic mess on Wednesday is the result of complete lack of governance on part of successive governments, the Bandh is a very valid form of protest by the people of Bengaluru and Kannadigas in general against the totally unscientific award given by the Cauvery Tribunal, which does not take into account the distress years and what needs to be done by the distress years. While there is inconvenience, I think the Bandh is a very valid form of protest, and it is a people's Bandh. It's not the Bandh called by any political party. So in that respect, I fully support the Bandh.
All right. Thank you for your call. Lakshman is also calling us. Yes, Lakshman, go ahead.
Good evening, Zaka. My point of view is very simple. The state has lacked completely in planning their roads, their development projects. How can you give licenses to 7 lakh people to work in a small zone, which is going to cause this traffic mess? It is total state responsibility for not planning properly and is assigning different zones to different companies to work from. Okay, number 1. Number 2, as far as the Bandh is concerned, again, my issue is the Chief Minister of the state should have, who is known that there is a Bandh coming up, should have come forward and talk to the people of the state saying that please don't participate in the Bandh. We are trying to do A, B, C, D for you, which he did not do. At least that could have possibly helped some people to change their mind.
All right.
The state is working on.
Thank you, Lakshman, for your call. Ganesh is also calling us from Bengaluru. Yes, Ganesh, go ahead.
Good evening, Zaka.
Good evening.
We should just concentrate on the Bandh. Bringing in the Bangalore traffic is different. See, people come to Bangalore to enjoy so many things. Traffic is one of the issue, and this type of 5-hour jam does not happen every day. It just so happened on Wednesday due to a lot of issues. Like people were forced to come to work that day, and there was a long 5-day holiday, people went away. This does not, I'm not trying to say Bandh is good or bad, okay? Bandh had to happen because drinking water is utmost important for Bangaloreans, more than the traffic jam. You say in Delhi, we being in Bangalore, drinking water is a must, I think so.
All right, Ganesh, thank you for your call. Let me go back to our panelists. Yes, Madhu wanted to respond. Now, again, Madhu, let's stick to, the mess that was caused, and let's stick to the Bandh and whether the Bandh was the best means to make your point. I don't want to get into the merits or demerits of the Cauvery matter. That's a separate debate.
Well, by your point, you have insulated Mr. Sumansi Raman. Fair enough. Now, I listened to that. My only point is this. See, look at the apathy by the government. Let me ask one question to this government. Fair enough, we have lost our elections and the Congress government is there. What did Mr. D.K. Shivkumar, the Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka, tell? He told that I will make brand Bengaluru. But unfortunately, people from here, his own party and MLAs have been telling there's no money, please give us money. And they have diverted the money for the guarantee schemes. And now of all, they want to open 359 outlets of bars, so to say, to make Bangalore a brandy city or a bar city. I mean, look at the opportunity, look at the priorities of this government. What else can you ask for, Zaka? I mean, look at the DCM, look at the Chief Minister, look at those ministers and all the MLAs. They have been vehemently telling we do not have money for development. What can you expect from this slumbered sleep, having, not even listening to the people of Karnataka. Therefore, the one was called.
So, Sumant Raman, again, to the point that, one second, Sumant, hear me out. To the point that Brijesh made, and I think it's a fair one, that yes, this is not just an emotive issue, it's a life and death issue. If there's no drinking water, then what are people expected to do? So, if that means that they need to convey the sentiment of the state, then they do it in the most attention-catching manner. And what more attention-catching manner than calling a band?
No, Zaka,
if you can give me a courtesy of 30 seconds.
Sumant, please, Sumant, yeah.
1 second. Zaka, there are two things. Had the Karnataka government explained the position to their own citizens better, there may not have even been a necessity for a band. If they had said, look,
I'm sorry,
Tamil Nadu is demanding. 1 second, sir, please don't interrupt.
No, you do not know statistics. Please do not talk about statistics.
No, Madhu, please, come on. We were having a civilized conversation. No fighting, please. Yeah, Sumant, finish.
1 second, Zaka. If they had gone and told their citizens, look, Tamil Nadu has moved the court asking for 24,000 cusecs of water. The Cauvery Management Authority has only told us to give 5,000 cusecs. We are releasing only 3,000 cusecs. That itself would have cooled temperatures down on that side. Instead of that, to say that we have no water when 58 TMC feet of water stands in the reservoirs today. What I'm trying to tell you is, had the communication been proper by the Karnataka government, there may not have been the necessity for a band. What has been ordered by the Cauvery Water Management Authority is a fraction.
There are issues. Even the Cauvery is also an emotive issue in Tamil Nadu, and is one of the few issues. And Brijesh can also weigh in on this. One of the few issues where all political parties are wanting to be seen on the right side of this divide. They all fight 364 days in a year, but on one day when there is a Cauvery issue, everyone wants to be seen on the right side. So, did the state government have that choice, or as Madhu and Sumant are saying, they did a ham-handed job, they didn't argue well before the Cauvery Water Management Authority, they didn't argue or present their case well before the Supreme Court, and therefore this is where they find themselves in. Brijesh. Yeah, Brijesh.
See, Zaka, there are three things I'd like to say. One is that as far as just now Sumant conceded that the water share of Karnataka has consistently gone up at every round. So it's either the tribunal or the Supreme Court which has granted us that. So obviously, when we first had to release, we had to release 205 TMC. Then in 2007, we started to release 192 TMC on orders of the tribunal. Then after the Supreme Court decision in 2018, that release amount has come down to 177.25. So constantly, Karnataka has bettered its case because ultimately one authority or another has realized that Karnataka has got a raw deal. One. Two is in regard to the fact that this huge amount of, in fact, the Supreme Court concedes this point, that there is a huge amount of groundwater which exists in Tamil Nadu, which is untapped, right? And that has not been touched so far. And this everybody knows. In fact, there has been a famous booklet which we relied on, in which there was an extreme drought here. During that time, over 170 TMC of water was drawn from the ground, because you see, as you know, in a river water dispute, water has been flowing there for centuries. Therefore, the entire basin of the Tamil Nadu basin This
was
has
factored in.
extraordinary amount of groundwater.
Sorry,
Extraordinary amount of
groundwater was factored in when this 177 was ordered.
Okay,
The groundwater level was also taken
Tara,
into
I'm coming back to
Right.
Tara
When is this
Krishnaswamy.
groundwater going
You know,
to be-
again, I don't want to get diverted by the merits or demerits of the Cauvery matter because that is in front of the Supreme Court, it's in front of the Cauvery Water Management Authority. I do want to focus on the merits or demerits of successive governments that have let down citizens of Bengaluru, whether it is on traffic matters or even for that fact, you know, on the Cauvery water issue, had successive governments presented a better case, maybe they would have got a more favorable ruling.
Zaka, every single caller, which is random, right? Whoever reaches your line, every single person has supported the Bandh. So,
no,
like
that's
you
not
yourself
true.
said,
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Everyone has said
there were
this
quite a few who said no, the Bandh, we don't accept the
Okay,
Bandh.
then
Anyway,
I
that's
heard
fine.
differently than you did.
Surely you did. Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, what it means is that this is a very emotive issue, and like you said, everybody wants to err on the side of their own state, which is not unusual, and that's a good thing. Now, as far as what we can change, which is the traffic of Bengaluru, successive governments have surely let us down. There's no two ways about it. What I was trying to say earlier when I was cut off is that if we first prioritize roads and cars over public transport, this is what we will get. No matter how many roads you build, number of cars will always overtake that in a city like Bangalore, where we already have more cars than we have people. Instead, we should look forward to the fact that for the first time in Bangalore, we are having the metro that is going to be deployed. It doesn't exist. There's no question of forcing people to get on something that doesn't exist. There is a metro there are metros that are lines that are going to be deployed in the most congested places where most commuters go. Lakhs and lakhs of commuters go to Electronic City, lakhs and lakhs go to Whitefield, and lakhs go to KR Puram. Those are the areas where the metro is going to be deployed this year. That's good news. For the first time in about 10 years, we are having over 1,000 public buses added. That is again good news. So, and last mile connectivity is being looked at. So what we need to focus on is to continue to put pressure on the government to make sure that all this happens and that there is some degree of a modal shift. I don't see us building enough roads. Today, if there are 6 lakh cars on the road, 3.5 lakh cars on the road, today if 7 lakh people work there, tomorrow it's going to become 10 lakhs.
No, while in principle, I agree with what Tara is saying, but I don't see, people who have cars, and most of them who are working in this corridor are well-to-do and have cars. I don't see them giving up their cars after having tasted that, the convenience of driving cars. Unless there is some dramatic speed shift cut, unless there's some dramatic, if you can do that whole stretch in 20 minutes or something, or 15 minutes in a metro, I don't see how they give up on cars, but we'll leave it at that.
That's exactly what the metro will do.
Let's see how this story plays out. Like I said, it's an absolute travesty that people should be stuck in traffic without basic infrastructure, and those very same people are also at the receiving end of a statewide Bandh when it's convenient for the politicians there. But let me now move on to the other big story, and that is this whole diplomatic showdown that's been going on between India and Canada. Now External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has reacted. He was speaking at the Hudson Institute in Washington, where he said that yes, Canada first privately and then subsequently publicly talked about these allegations of Indian involvement. So far, there is nothing specific. There is no specific evidence that's been provided. And if and when they do, then India is willing to consider it. This is what the External Affairs Minister said.
Canada. Yes, the Canadian Prime Minister made some allegations, initially privately and then publicly. And our response to him, both in private and public, were that what he was alleging was not consistent with our policy, and that if his government had anything relevant and specific they would like us to look into, we were open to looking at it. Now, that's where that conversation is at this point of time. But to understand that conversation, you have to also appreciate that this has been an issue of great friction for many years with Canada. in fact going back to the 1980s. Then it became dormant, but in the last few years it has come back very much into play because of what we consider to be a very permissive Canadian attitude towards terrorists, extremists, people who openly advocate violence. And they have been given operating space in Canada because of the compulsions of Canadian politics. I don't think most Americans, for Americans, perhaps Canada looks very different. But it depends, from where the interest, where the shoe pinches. For us, it has certainly been a country where organized crime from India mixed with trafficking in people, mixed with secessionism, violence, terrorism. It's a very toxic combination of issues and people who have found operating space there.
All right. So, since this controversy broke out about 10 days or so ago, everyone is Googling and trying to find out what is this whole business of Khalistan. When did it start? Who were the principal players? How much resonance does it actually have in today's Punjab? And is it having more resonance in the diaspora that's outside of India, in places like Canada, UK and the US, than it is in Punjab, where it started back in the 1970s? Here's a deep dive and explainer on Crux Decode on where this demand for a Khalistan movement started, who its key players were, and why today and in today's Punjab it is as good as non-existent. Thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you again Monday night, same time. The Khalistan movement, a proponent of Sikh separatism, has left a significant mark on the history of India and in particular the Sikh community. Emerging in the late 20th century, it sought to establish an independent Sikh state called Khalistan to be carved out from the modern Indian state of Punjab in India's northwest. Through much of the 80s and early 90s, there were violent protests in the name of Khalistan, leading to more than 20,000 people dying in Punjab alone. Many of them were ordinary civilians who had nothing to do with this separate idea of a Khalistan. Now, this arcane concept is back in the news, with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau publicly accusing the Indian government and its spy agents of killing a Canadian national, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who is a big proponent of Khalistan. On Crux Decode, we delve into the origins, the key leaders, pivotal events, and what is the status of Khalistan as it exists today, both in Punjab and also in the Punjabi Sikh diaspora in Western countries like the UK, US and Canada. The Khalistan movement originated in the Indian state of Punjab during the 1970s, and it gained momentum throughout the 1980s. Its roots can be traced back to the demand for autonomy and recognition of Sikhism as a distinct religion separate from Hinduism, which of course is the majority religion in India. Sikhs, who form a significant minority in India, have a history of advocating for their rights, which culminated in the demand for Khalistan. Sikhs have always seen themselves as distinct from other religions. However, Article 25 of the Indian Constitution recognizes Sikhism, Jainism and Buddhism as subsects of Hinduism and not as separate religions. Even though matters of marriage are regulated under a separate Anand Marriage Act, which is separate from the Hindu Marriage Act. Several prominent personalities have played pivotal roles in shaping the Khalistan movement. Charnail Singh Bhindranwale stands out as one of the most influential and also one of the most highly controversial figures. While he is revered among some Sikhs, for most of them, he is seen as nothing but a terrorist. He rose to infamy in the late 70s with his fiery rhetoric and unwavering commitment to an extremely conservative form of Sikhism called the Nihang. Bhindranwale's growing popularity and influence made him a central figure in the Khalistan separatism movement. Bhindranwale's emergence as a key figure of the Khalistan movement can be attributed to his staunch defense of Sikhism's conservative interests and also his ability to mobilize support in village after village in Punjab. He advocated for greater autonomy for Sikhs within India and was also seen as the voice against Sikh grievances. His militant stand would eventually lead to a violent confrontation with the government of India. His terrorists were responsible for the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians and also several hundred police and security personnel. The turning point in the Khalistan separatist movement came with Operation Blue Star in June of 1984. Then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ordered the Indian Army to storm into the Golden Temple complex in Amritsar, one of the holiest shrines in Sikhism. Inside the Golden Temple, Bhindranwale and his armed followers had taken refuge for a number of weeks. The operation aimed to flush out the militants, but it also resulted in significant damage to this holy shrine. It was seen as an insult by many Sikhs. It also led to the loss of many lives. Bhindranwale himself was killed at the end of this 10-day operation. But it did not stop there. In a tragic turn of events, 5 months later, Indira Gandhi was assassinated by her Sikh bodyguards in October of 1984 in retaliation for Operation Blue Star. Now this led to widespread anti-Sikh riots in Delhi as well as other parts of India, resulting in the deaths of thousands of Sikhs. And that further deepened the divide between the Sikh community and the Indian government. More than 3,000 Sikhs died in what turned out to be one of the worst communal clashes on Indian soil. Many of those victims' families are still waiting for justice 40 years on. Some prominent Congress leaders of that time, from Kamal Nath to Jagdish Tytler, they were all charged with provoking the anti-Sikh riots, none of whom have been convicted till date. In the years following Operation Blue Star, the Indian government launched a sustained crackdown on the Khalistan movement. A senior police officer, KPS Gill, was given overriding powers to curtail the militancy at all costs. Even the ordinary people of Punjab were growing sick and tired with years and years of violence, and of course this rather elusive dream of a separate Khalistan state. Many separatist leaders were arrested and the movement lost much of its momentum by the early 1990s. The Khalistan movement had largely been suppressed in parts of Punjab. Today, the Khalistan movement remains more active among the Sikh diaspora than actually on the ground in Punjab. Some Sikh organizations abroad continue to advocate for Khalistan. It enjoys limited support in Punjab itself. In fact, a 2021 Pew Research survey found that more than 95% of respondents in Punjab did not support the idea of Khalistan. And that, of course, indicates a significant shift that's happened in public opinion over the years in Punjab. Much of the activism on Khalistan has been confined to the diaspora within the Punjabi Sikh community, largely in the Anglophile countries of US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Now, there is a tiny section within the Punjabi Sikh community which is rich, it's influential, and it is using imported immigrant politics as a means to secure votes in those countries. A classic example is Jagmeet Singh, or Jimmy Dhaliwal, the head of the New Democratic Party in Canada. He has 24 MPs, more than 15 of whom are Sikh or of Punjabi origin. And on those 24 MPs depends the fate of Justin Trudeau's Liberal government. Without those MPs, that coalition will fall. So perhaps that explains why Trudeau has gone overboard trying to appease this tiny minority vote bank. The Khalistan movement has a complex history that's marked by its emergence in Punjab, separatist demagogues like Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, and significant events like Operation Blue Star and the assassination of Indira Gandhi. While the movement has lost much of its ground support within Punjab, it continues to be a topic of discussion and debate within the diaspora. The history of the Khalistan movement serves as a reminder of the complexities of ethnic and religious tensions in India and the enduring legacy around some of its leaders and events, a legacy that continues to be shaped even to this day, and even by a tiny minority that is tens of thousands of miles away from Indian shores.
Presented by
After Bengaluru Bandh, many pro-Kannada organizations and farmers organizations in the state have called for a Karnataka Bandh, disrupting many services here in the state of Karnataka. Despite the fact that the Karnataka state government has maintained that BMTC buses and KSRTC buses are plying throughout the state, the buses here in the state of Karnataka has come down to allow. Now I am accompanied by a few laborers here at the Mysore satellite bus stand. आप कहाँ से हो, कब आए इधर?
आसाम।
आप कब आए इधर?
कल इवनिंग 3 बजे।
क्या बस मिल रहा है इधर?
बस कल से हम ऐसे बैठे हुए, अभी तक तो मिला नहीं बस। वैसे अभी मतलब अभी टिकट काटा है हमने, तो नाइट 9 बजे बस मिलेगा रात को।
कहाँ जा रहा है आप?
कर्नूल।
सो आप कल से इधर वेट कर रहे हैं बस के लिए?
हाँ, कल से यहाँ पर 3 बजे से वेट कर रहे हैं, अभी तक बस नहीं मिला। अभी सुबह टिकट काटा है तो अभी मिल गया बस।
क्यों नहीं मिल रहा है इधर? आपको यूजुअली ऐसा होता है, तो अब आज नहीं मिल रहा है?
पता नहीं, हमारा फर्स्ट टाइम है इसीलिए हमें इतना पता नहीं है, क्योंकि कल से हम वेट कर रहे थे तो सब लोग को देख रहे थे, तो सब लोग जा रहे थे, हमें सीट नहीं मिल रहा था, तो इस वजह से कल रात को यहीं पर बैठे हुए थे हम, इधर ही रह रहे थे, तो ऐसे चल रहा था।
कंडक्टर साहब इधर क्या बोल रहे हैं आपको?
वो बोल रहे थे, कल बोल रहे थे सीट नहीं है। कोई किसी से भी पूछो बोल रहे सीट नहीं है, आज बस होगा ही नहीं, ऐसा बोल रहे थे कल। मतलब आज सुबह में हम गए थे तो आज सीट हो गया, तो ऐसा बोला गया।
ओके, आप कब जा रहे थे आज कुरनूल को? टिकट कब मिला है?
टिकट सुबह 7-8 बजे मिला है। 9 रात को 9 बजे के 9:16।
तो आप कल से इधर ही वेट कर रहे हैं?
कल से इधर ही वेट कर रहे हैं।
अच्छा, thank you. So this is a labor family here waiting from yesterday afternoon 3 p.m. The conductor is saying that they are not getting any seats or buses. Today there are unavailability of buses, so they've got a ticket, but at 9 p.m. today. So definitely the Karnataka Bandh has affected the plying of buses in the state of Karnataka, despite the fact that Karnataka state government is maintaining that buses are plying throughout the state.
ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಯಾವ್ದು ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡ್ರಿ ಬಸ್ ಏನ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರ
This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Justin Trudeau wants to be friends with India. That's right. After picking a fight, making murder charges, expelling a diplomat and kicking up such a fuss, he wants friendship. Meanwhile, his story is unraveling. Last week, we told you that Nijjar could be a Canadian agent. Now, his own son has said that he regularly met Canadian intelligence officials. We'll get to the full story. In Russia, the Wagner Group is back. Vladimir Putin has named a new chief. In Argentina, the government has abolished income tax. Is it even possible? Can India do it? We will discuss. A new US report exposes China's disinformation machinery. It shows how Beijing is pouring billions to control the narrative. In other news, Saudi Arabia wants a NATO-style defense pact with America. Sweden's Prime Minister has called in the army to curb gang violence. The latest on the Manipur crisis in India. And can taping your mouth help you sleep better? This is not metaphorical. People are actually doing it, including celebrities. We'll bring you more. The headlines first. Niger's junta says a dozen soldiers have been killed in a militant attack. Hundreds of armed insurgents reportedly attacked the forces near the capital. The junta claims more than 100 militants have been killed in a counter-offensive. Such attacks have been on the rise since the military coup in July. Russia hosts Taliban leaders for talks on regional security. Officially, Taliban is recognized as a terrorist organization in Russia. The meeting comes days after Uzbekistan, which neighbors Afghanistan, hosted American officials. Both Moscow and Beijing have courted the Taliban. Maldives set for its presidential election runoff tomorrow. Opposition candidate Mohammad Muizzu is trying to unseat the Mohammad Soli government. The polls are being seen as part of a larger geopolitical battle between India and China. Maldives holds strategic importance for both these countries as well as the West. Elon Musk wades into the US immigration debate. The tech billionaire visits the US-Mexico border amid a surge of migrants and live streams it on X. Musk, who was born in South Africa, has called for an overhaul of immigration laws in the US. Look what's invading France. Paris has launched a battle plan against bed bugs. The blood-sucking insects have been found in public transport, cinemas and hospitals. 1/10 of all French households are believed to have had a bed bug problem in the last few years. And one of the UK's most photographed trees has been felled. A 16-year-old who was arrested for the crime has been given bail. The Sycamore Gap tree had stood for more than 200 years. It was often called the Robin Hood tree after appearing in the 1991 blockbuster film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Justin Trudeau has spoken again, but this time in a different tone. He wasn't flinging wild allegations at India, nor was he equating separatism to free speech. Trudeau now wants closer ties with India. Those were his words. That Canada wants to build closer relations with India, the same country he accused of murder. So what's the deal here? Does Trudeau think he was wrong? Or has he realized that he is alone? We'll discuss that, but first, listen to the Canadian Prime Minister.
Growing economic power, an important geopolitical player. And as we presented with our Indo-Pacific strategy just last year, we're very serious about building closer ties with India. At the same time, obviously, as a rule of law country, we need to emphasize that India needs to work with Canada to ensure that we get the full facts of this matter.
Frankly, teenagers are easier to read. First, Trudeau accused India of potentially murdering a Canadian citizen. Then he asked India to cooperate, and now he says he wants to be friends. Clearly, Trudeau missed the class on diplomacy. I can tell you a simple lesson off the top of my head. If you want friendship, do not accuse that country of murder. It doesn't matter now. Trudeau has already done the damage. The only question is, why is he dialing down? To answer that, we need to look at some recent developments. None of them look good for Trudeau. Number one, Hardeep Singh Nijjar had links to Canadian intelligence. We are not saying this, Nijjar's son is. He says his father used to meet with Canadian spooks frequently. Just how frequent? 2 to 3 times a week. These meetings began in February 2023. There was one meeting just 2 days before his murder. There was another scheduled after his death. What were these meetings about? Surely not his security. You would discuss your security with the police or the local administration. Why would you discuss it with spies? So clearly there is something more at play. And what is Canada saying about this? Nothing. As usual, it's all under investigation. But these claims raise an uncomfortable question for Canada. Was Nijjar a Canadian asset? Did Canadian spies weaponize him? According to Indian sources, it is likely. We told you about this last week. Indian sources believe that Nijjar could have been working with Canadian intelligence. His son's claims give credibility to that suspicion. Now to the second development. Trudeau's double standard has been questioned. In 2020, a Baloch activist was killed in Canada. Her name was Karima Baloch. She was kidnapped and later found dead. Most people pointed fingers at Pakistan's spy agency, the Inter-Service Intelligence, or ISI. Did Trudeau stand in the Canadian Parliament and accuse Pakistan? He did not. I guess the Baloch vote bank was not big enough. But now Karima Baloch's husband is questioning Justin Trudeau. He says Pakistan's ISI murdered her. He also wants Canada to reopen the case. Baloch rights organizations are also saying the same. Listen to their statement, and I'm quoting. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's conspicuous silence regarding the unexplained death of Karima Baloch stands in stark contrast to his impassioned speeches concerning the shooting death of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. It's hard to argue with the argument. So much anger over a potential link, yet so much negligence and silence after a mysterious death. Now to the third development, a meeting between India and the US in Washington. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar is in the US. On Thursday, he met Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Everyone had the same question. Would they discuss the Canada issue? Well, the official statement does not mention it. It talks about the G20, it talks about space and defense, but it does not mention Canada. That doesn't mean it did not come up. India's Foreign Minister says he did talk about Canada, both with Blinken and with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Listen in.
Speak about it with Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken? Yes, I did. They obviously shared, US views and assessments on this whole situation. And I explained to them at some length, what I gave you was a summary of the concerns which I had. So I think hopefully we both came out of those meetings better informed.
Minister Jaishankar did elaborate on India's concerns. He said Canada has a permissive attitude towards extremism.
Been an issue of great friction for many years with Canada. In the last few years, it has come back very much into play because of what we consider to be a very permissive Canadian attitude towards terrorists, extremists, people who openly advocate violence. And they have been given operating space in Canada. Today, I am actually in a situation where my diplomats are unsafe going to the embassy or to the consulates.
And what did Blinken say? Reports say he urged India to cooperate with Canada. And this is not new. The US has asked India to cooperate multiple times. So why not include it in the statement? Maybe the US wants quiet diplomacy. Maybe they wanted to focus on the positives only. Either way, it's not a good look for Justin Trudeau. He said Blinken would raise the issue with Jaishankar, but the statement doesn't even mention it. So much for Canada's closest ally and friend. Development number 4 is the support for India. I'm not sure Justin Trudeau expected this. Domestically, Indians have rallied behind the government, opposition parties, civil society, even hackers. This week, the website of Canada's armed forces was hacked. It was disabled for 2 hours. The cyber attack was claimed by the Indian Cyber Force. It's a pro-India hacking group. They shared screenshots on social media. Of course, India had nothing to do with it. These hackers operate outside official control. But who knows? Maybe Justin Trudeau will find a potential link here too. India's neighbours are also rallying against Canada. Sri Lanka was the first to speak out. Their foreign minister called Trudeau's allegations outrageous. He also said Canada harbours terrorists. And now Bangladesh is saying the same. Listen to what their foreign minister said, I'm quoting, "The murderers can go to Canada and take shelter and they can have a wonderful life while those they killed, their relatives, are suffering." Again, it's hard to argue with that. The fact is, Justin Trudeau is isolated. Maybe the US has supported him behind closed doors, but in public they have not. And they won't unless he offers proof. It's been 12 days since Trudeau made his allegations. We are still waiting for the evidence. So the choice is now his. He can keep spending political capital on the issue, or he can dial down. He can handle this maturely and diplomatically. Trudeau may have fired the first shot in this face-off, but he's now in defense mode. The media, the Indian government, activists, everyone is questioning his charges or his past hypocrisy. So does he retreat or push forward? What he chooses could decide the future of India-Canada relations, maybe his own political future too. Now let's turn our attention to Russia and the frozen war in Ukraine. When was the last time you heard major news from the front lines there? Last year was about Russia invading and annexing territory. This year was supposed to be about Kiev's counter-offensive. But the war seems to